Alrighty, and welcome back to Town Hall episode 22. This is our 22nd episode, and we are joined by two guests this week. We have Idra and LzGamer. LzGamer, it's your first time being on the show. What's up, man?
Hey, man. What's up?
Not much. Now, you have a long history with EG and Starcraft 2. Now, tell us a little bit about your switch to Heroes and how involved you are with the game.
All right. Well, at first I wasn't planning on switching. I was enjoying Starcraft 2. Well, a decent amount, I guess. I was, kind of hating the way WCS and stuff was running and all that. And so it was kind of frustrating. And Heroes came out, and I got into the alpha. And I really just fell in love with the game. I played like League casually, and I played some Dota and that type of stuff, just fun, for fun with friends. But really seeing the Heroes of the Storm game come to life, I was like really surprised on how polished it was and how different it was at the same time. And so I really enjoyed it. And so, after just playing it casually for fun or with some friends, I decided, let's try taking it a little bit more serious and just see where it goes. So that's where I am.
Awesome. Greg, it's your second time on the show. Welcome back. How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty well. Thanks for having me back.
Second or third time? Is it third time?
Second, I think.
Second. Okay. Yeah, good. And Kevin, what's new with you?
Not much. Just played a crap ton of Heroes last night. Over the weekend, watched a lot of eSports tournaments. Esports is alive and well. #passion or something like that.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, that's about it.
Kubi, I just drove up to visit you in Massachusetts and watch some EVO.
I had a nice EVO viewing party for my close friends up here. It was a good time. I don't know if you guys know this, but I main Rose in Street Fighter 4, so it was probably the best day of my life to see a Rose just dominate the competition all the way from losers bracket. Oh, what a day. What a day.
PlayStation 1 controller, nonetheless.
There were so many records. Bro. It was like first European player to take EVO, first CAD player to take EVO. It was
crazy.
What a great day.
Wait, so in the top 8, there were 2 Americans, 4 Japanese.
The Frenchman.
That's awesome.
Yes, he's awesome. He's the best.
He's
fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch. And there was so much Rose salt on Twitter and Facebook. I was loving it. I was just like, bring it on. So good.
Awesome. Well, speaking of other esports events, this is kind of be an esports-centric show. We often talk about the game itself, but today's show, we're going to talk about ETC, but we're really going to focus on the esports elements of the game and what we think the game will develop into and kind of just some various hot topics around esports. In specific, we're going to do, again, ETC Deep Dive. We do one hero deep dive on every episode each week. We're going to talk about scrimming and the current status of scrims in the game and the way it works and how inconvenient it really is. Popular team compositions, popular bans that we see right now in the meta, and solo queue versus pre-mades. And at the very end of the show, we are going to talk Reddit questions. We're going to answer the favorite questions that we read on Reddit. So if you go to reddit.com/r/Heroes of the Storm, we have a thread there. You can ask us some questions, and we'll answer them at the end of the show. But we have some pretty new news. We have Blizzard just announced today that there's going to be a Q&A next week. Now, they've done 4 or 5 of these, I think 4 of them so far. And at the Q&As, we tend to get like UI updates or just like a little bits of info. The first 3 of them, I think, were just like, only, information was only relevant to people that don't care about the game, people that don't know a lot about the game. There's been 6.
6. God. It says it in the first sentence.
Whatever.
The first sentence. We'll be revisiting the Nexus for our 6th QA session.
Well, the first few were pretty boring for me, so that's why I cut them out. But
very overview-ish type things, like you were saying. So it's like if you don't know a lot about the game, you follow other Blizzard stuff. Yeah, they're interesting. Right. It filled you in a lot. So,
but they're now speaking now that they have an actual following, an actual core, like a decent amount of people playing the game. Not a decent amount of invites have gone out for the alpha. We're actually be getting a new hero and a new battleground announced, maybe more.
Yeah. You know what? I actually read through this, and I did not catch that part. It's like they snuck it in right at the end. We'll have a little game. Oh, new hero and new battleground. Like, whoa. Hey.
No, I thought they said that pretty early on. I thought they said that twice. There was another thing, too, wasn't there? Like another big thing?
Progression system. Updated progression system. I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see, like, maybe a preview of a spectator UI or something. That's something that we really need.
Yeah.
At least custom games, because we have the technology, but we had it taken away.
I think we won't have custom games until beta.
No,
Probably not.
Unfortunately,
I mean, so Blizzard has released things before at events like Gamescom. And Blizzard's doing something at San Diego Comic-Con. They showed us a bunch of new characters at PAX East. They're going to be doing stuff for Heroes at San Diego Comic-Con, which is next weekend. And Gamescom is next month. My guess is that the beta is going to be at Gamescom.
That would be cool. That kind of lines up.
That'd be nice.
With, I don't know. I've been hearing rumors for like the last month. Nothing at all substantiated or like convincing or anything. But people just like kept a feeling that beta is going to come soon. So that would kind of line up.
Yeah, Xbox made sense. I mean, I don't think they'd release it next week. Like, they don't
No,
want to go against like their
no
own
way.
like Curse of Naxxramas comes out for Hearthstone. I think that'd be a kind of weird time for everyone's getting hyped about Hearthstone. They're going to play that, and then a few weeks after that, then roll into okay, you're done with Naxxramas. Now go try this new game, Heroes of the Storm. I think that would be really smart, and that's kind of what
beat Naxxramas, unlock a new Barak in Heroes of the Storm.
right? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
you know what? I'm still waiting for my Vala. Free Vala.
That's gonna be
ordering.
Diablo
So let's slow down, back up on the other promises they made. Then
Well,
we
that's
can
your
do new
fault for
stuff.
buying Diablo 3.
Hey, you know what?
But-
I had a lot of fun with that game. I mean, I don't play it anymore, but it was a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was fun for a while. But who do you guys think we're going to see? Now, you said a new Barak. A new Barak makes a lot of sense when you
Yeah.
consider she was
I thought-
well, they didn't confirm her. Is that what you're going to
I
say?
thought it was confirmed. Yeah.
Where?
Because an Uberak is in the picture, like
Yeah.
at the
Yeah,
announcement,
but
And
Yeah,
he-
but that
and
doesn't
it was
mean
in the-
anything.
and it was in the video, like when they released Sagara and
Right.
shit. Like
Yeah, that's
it's like
true.
99% going to be him. Is it
Right.
a him or an it or what?
I think it's a her.
Well, I mean, it
could
could also be.
A her. Okay.
I don't know.
It could also be Kael'thas, Sylvanas.
Yeah, I mean, we're still looking at the
Chen.
Chin background on, just
Right,
the,
right.
the Heroes game
Smooth.
itself, and he's
That's
not
just
even
like
in the game.
generic. That's just
Yeah.
like generic artwork, though. This is like hype images they're releasing immediately before a new hero's
But
going to
right,
come out.
this exact
Like-
artwork is on this poster that they gave out at BlizzCon. So, like, a new Barak,
Oh,
that
okay.
exact image has existed for quite a while. So
I didn't know that. That makes it less.
So yeah, that's no confirmation by having it in this image. But again, like you said, in the Zagara trailer, we saw a new Barak. We see it right here in our face. Curse of
Yeah.
Naxxramas is coming out this month, so it makes a lot of sense for them to show it off. But at the same time, at PAX East, they showed us Sylvanas, Chen, and Kael'thas. And those are supposed to be like the next three after the four that we got. We got Lili, we got Murky, we got Brightwing, and we got Zagara. And then there were like three more after that. They could just come out of nowhere and just like, oh, here's a new Barak. Because we've seen in-game, we've seen like Cho'Gall, we've seen Jaina, we've seen tons of, Rex, there are tons of characters that the models are already made in the game. They're just tweaking them or finishing their animations or whatever. But
Yeah. I get the impression that they really just go with whatever is working at any given time because they release like 4 specialists in a row. There's no way that they actually like want to do that. It's just terrible. So I think whatever heroes come to maturity at whatever point they will release. So I don't think it's necessarily the 3 we saw at PAX.
Right. I actually talked to somebody at MLG Anaheim. There were some Blizz employees there, and somebody said there's just like some people are working on X hero. There's like various people working on various heroes, and people they'll just get finished up and they'll just push them out because.
Yeah.
Can I get that job? That'd be like the sickest job. Just be like, hey, Shampoo, just sit around and come up with an idea for hero. And I'm like, that's all we did episode 1 of Town Hall.
Yeah.
We came up with like 4 heroes each.
That wasn't episode 1. That was like our first 7 episodes, dude. Like we did that for a long time because we started the show well before the alpha began. But
Because we're dumb.
so my vote's a new Barak. Everyone vote. Who do you think it's gonna be?
I think it's him too.
Yep.
I would do that pick, yeah.
Yep. All right. 3, 4.
Sylvanas.
Sylvanas.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
She's my favorite Warcraft hero. Period. So I'm hoping it's Sylvanas.
Decker
But you think
Kane.
it's a
That
new
should be
Barak.
sick.
You want Kane? I think it's a new Barak, but I can't wait for Sylvanas.
It's gonna be Deckard Kane.
Deckard Kane. I hope so, man. That'd be amazing.
I'm still.
No, it's
I'm
Leroy
thinking-
Jenkins, obviously.
Yes.
Leroy. Yeah.
He's one of the first ones who theory-crafted. I think
Yeah.
Leroy.
I really
should-
I thought Murky would have been like the perfect thing for
Like-
Leroy.
No, this is the
like his playstyle.
Like Leroy's heroic has to summon minions for the enemy team. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be something that just like has a detriment, but is like really OP at the same time. It'd be really fun.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to maps. We're getting a new battleground, new map. I mean, the theme could be a million different things. It could be a Warcraft theme. It could be a Starcraft theme. Because we haven't seen a specific theme for a game, but...
I thought we knew one. I thought we knew the Plants vs. Zombies thing.
Yeah, I think it is good.
Yeah, that was
one.
data mined a while ago. We haven't heard anything about that.
That's the only actual map thing that I have heard about.
Yeah.
I forgot about that entirely.
Unless they just make like a StarCraft 2 map and it's like, bam.
Yeah. I mean, they could make, lots of stuff. It could be far as we know.
As far as we know, the Plants vs. Zombies things is just something they built in the office to have fun with. I mean, we don't. There's no confirmation, even though it's data mined. There's no confirmation that it's actually something that we're going to see on the ladder. Maybe. I mean, that was a long time ago. This post was like, I'm looking for a date. That was May, so that was a decent chunk of time ago, May 26th, and I feel like we would have heard something by now. So maybe they scrapped it. Maybe they made a lot of changes to it. Maybe it's something they were testing internally. But
I'm sure there's a lot of changes to that list. I mean.
Oh, of course.
It's obvious.
Of course. But yeah, that's actually really likely. I didn't even think about that.
It's hard to speculate.
Do you have any cool map ideas that you would like to see?
Definitely a capture the flag type thing. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but that would be a lot of fun to see how they implement that.
I just want a StarCraft 2 map, or StarCraft in general.
So if I know you guys probably haven't played World of Warcraft, but World of Warcraft has a battleground called Eye of the Storm, and the way Eye of the Storm works is there's one flag in the middle, and there's 4 territories. And when you control multiple territories, you get more points when you cap the flag. So it promotes having a lot of control of the map, but because if you can just run and turn the flag in all day, but you're gonna get no points if you don't control any territories. So it would be cool to see something like that, just because I think your traditional capture the flag isn't gonna work. I feel like that would be really stale in a MOBA, honestly. I think they have to do something more unique like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
That would definitely make it interesting as far as the way the game plays out, because instead of being grouped as 5, you'd have to split into groups of 2, 2, 1 or something.
Leave someone to defend. If you're going for a big push, if you're holding 3 territories, you get a lot of points for it. Could be cool. Could be something cool to see them try to translate something like that from an MMO to a MOBA, but who knows? It's a different beast for sure, and they're doing a lot of unique things already.
Yeah.
So today in our Hero Deep Dive, we're actually going to be talking about ETC, and this is our last non-esports segment. But everybody here play ETC?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
Do you not?
Not a ton.
He's got guitars.
Does have guitars.
I played him a lot before the wipe, but I haven't played him that much since.
Any reason? It's just not your style?
I mean, I usually don't play the tanky roles.
I feel like I saw a lot more of him before the wipe too, and then right after, for some reason, everyone's just like, no, there's better characters. But
I don't know.
I feel like that's true, but he's actually making a bit of a comeback now. I think people are starting to appreciate him more again. There was definitely a downswing in popularity.
Yeah,
but
I think he's really good.
Back.
The downswing happened a lot when Brightwing came out, I think, because the polymorph is such a hard punish on it, and a lot of people were running Brightwing, and people just kind of got turned off by his heroic is such a crucial thing, and when you just lose it to poly or any other range stun, it's just oh, well, half my usefulness is gone now.
That's pretty funny because Brightwing's back, and yet we're also seeing an upswing of VTC as well.
Well, it's true. It's true because people
if we're
are
talking
learning.
about
Go ahead.
If we're talking about the scrims in competition, Brightwing is banned
Oh yeah,
most of the
frequently,
time.
yeah, that's true.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there. But Kev, why don't you read us off ETC's abilities?
Sure. ETC doesn't stand for etc. It actually stands for Elite Tauren Chieftain.
You had to read
He
that.
is
He was like, huh? What?
He is a rock god, if you didn't know already. His combat trait is Rockstar. When you use an ability, you give a 20% attack speed buff for 3 seconds to all nearby allies. Minions gain half the bonus. Screw you, minions. Power Slide is his Q. It's a skill shot. It's got a cooldown of 12 seconds. Slide to a location dealing 60 plus 7 per level damage and stunning enemies for 1 second. Face Melt, his W, is on a 12-second cooldown as well. Deals 50 damage plus 5 per level damage to nearby enemies, knocking them back. And his E is Guitar Solo, cooldown of 8 seconds, regenerate 25 plus 6 per level health per second for 4 seconds. He's got 2 heroic abilities, Mosh Pit, After a short delay, channel to stun nearby enemies for 4 seconds. It's got a cooldown of 120 seconds. And stage dive, which has got a cooldown of 100 seconds, leaps to any location, dealing 100 plus 12 for damage, plus 12 for level damage, and slows enemies that are hit for 3 seconds.
I like it.
There's
a lot of stuff they don't add in on those descriptions.
Yeah,
so
right.
Like for mosh pit, like they don't talk at all about like if you get stunned or dislodged during the startup of it, that you got like a 10-second cooldown.
Yeah, it's not unstoppable.
Yeah.
Knocking them back actually is like it's centered of course around ETC, but they don't really mention that. It just says knockback, doesn't really say which way they go. So yeah, there's a couple of things in there. But so ETC, what are your guys' thoughts? Tanky hero?
Of course.
What
yes. He's kind of like a hybrid, in my opinion. I mean, he's obviously a tank, but he also has that like from like other games, kind of like that Alistair feel to him from like League or something, to where he has a lot of zone control and disruption, but he also has like a group heal that actually is pretty great. Once if you actually look at the new healing scale that they implemented in the last patch, I'm assuming it works at least. ETC actually has a lot of healing done by the end of a match or a game or something.
He's actually got a ton of sustain compared to a lot of tanks, which is definitely really useful. I mean, I think we see him a lot in at least solo queue compositions. He works very well, and almost like just a lot of just random heroes. He just works with them. You don't necessarily need a specific team for him to be useful. So,
right.
Well, I agree with that statement. He's pretty hard to play in solo queue, I think. Like, there's a lot of heroes that work well with him, but if you don't have the communication going on, then like he suffers
that's true.
the most.
He's all about the setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not self-sufficient. I don't know. I almost feel like any warrior in solo queue is really asking for trouble, just because it's kind of hard to make things happen.
People pay attention to stitch hooks. Like they see it for of the other warriors. Like he's probably the easiest to play. The others, but I would generally agree with that statement.
And Barb does count as a warrior. I think Barb, she's more of a brawler than a tank.
Yeah, bruiser.
Yeah, but she definitely can. I like her in solo queue. She's the warrior. When I do my dailies, I'm playing Barb.
Yeah.
Just a slam for days. So, if you guys have never watched the show, we actually do straw polls for each level where you can actually go and take part in the straw polls. We'll post them in the chat here, but they're on Reddit as well. So if you go to the Reddit thread, you can see all the straw polls there and vote in advance. That being said, we're just going to jump right on into level 1 and take a look at his talents.
Sure, I forgot. Level 1. Oh, sorry. What were you saying, Greg?
I was going to say, I forgot we did this part. I don't actually play him. I have to know what I pick for talents.
Damn.
Well, just make up a build real quick.
You're going to learn real quick.
Tell everybody that's exactly how all the pros play him, and nobody will know any better.
I know how to work with him. I'm just not sure exactly. It's good.
Well, now you learn. This is the point. Now we can learn from Town Hall.
I'm going to learn. I hate playing Warriors, so I'm never going to implement it, but it's good to know.
All right,
you and me both.
All right, go ahead, Kev.
Level 1, we have Path of the Warrior. Your hero gains 35 health per level. Damage Slide increases the damage of Power Slide by 30%. Pawn Shop Guitar. Stupidest name ever. Guitar Solo's mana cost is reduced by 50%. Groupies. Guitar Solo now heals nearby allies for 12 plus 3 per level health every second for its duration. Now, do you guys typically run groupies on ETC, or do you run Path of the Warrior?
Always groupies.
Yeah,
Always
the
Okay.
The healing is like, I didn't realize until they actually put in those stats and stuff, but the healing off of it is kind of absurd. Especially if you get, like, I think it's a level 16 talent, where
it extends
there's a later
duration.
game talent where it gets better. And
Yes, guitar instrumental, the one that doubles the duration of it. Yep.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I've actually never grabbed that talent because, to me, 12 plus 3 per level didn't seem like a lot, but
it's deceptively
think about it, it's every second for 4 seconds. That's, it's good 50, 60 every 8 seconds. That's actually not that bad.
It adds up really quick.
Yeah.
Especially
Another
when
thing
it's
is,
AoE.
Another thing is when we play him, we really like to run him with Tyrant, just because Mosh Pit plus Shadowstalk are really good together, and they both have the attack speed auras, so they synergize really well with damage dealers. But she has pretty mediocre healing, so him getting groupies kind of compensates for that, and it's just more synergy between the two.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I was typically taking Path just because I felt like you probably needed the extra HP to get in to accomplish what you needed to do. But Groupies definitely has a good argument for it.
I never put together the synergy between that and the level 16 talent.
Yeah, I sometimes take that one for just for the extra sustain later on, but I may as well be taking Groupies. Cool.
Well, you can see a lot of people take Path. I think that's kind of always been the good choice, but like you said, a lot of people overlook Groupies, and I think a lot of minds might be changed after hearing that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Tier 2?
Level 4.
Level 4, also known as Tier 2 Superiority, which I saw somebody grab for the first time ever on a pub game the other day. Reduce damage taken from non-heroic enemies by 50%. Echo Pedal. After using any ability, pulse twice for 10 plus 3 per level damage to nearby enemies. Dance your pants off, which is the funnest talent to say. Enemy minions hit by face melt will also dance for 5 seconds. Loudspeakers increases the range and knockback of face melt by 50%.
I heard something interesting about Dance Your Pants Off from Steve. He was telling me that I think it was Blackheart's Bay, the Grave Golem, you can actually stun him. Or maybe it was Haunted Mines.
It was Haunted Mines, yeah.
It's Haunted Mines, yeah. So you can actually stun the Grave Golem for 5 seconds, which is pretty significant.
Sounds like something they'll patch, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Some bug that's in there right now. But
I thought they did patch it, or did it persist through it or something? I don't know. It was a known problem, and I thought it was addressed, but I'm not actually sure. Because no one ever gets that talent, so
yeah,
like,
no one ever gets it.
It never really gets explored.
Hey man, no one ever gets that talent, and yet I saw Superiority yesterday, so I think anything's up in the air.
True.
I think less people get superiority than that, so yeah.
That's probably true.
I don't know. I think Superiority is even better than the Dance Your Pants Off.
That's probably
Like,
yeah.
It allows you to tank towers.
It's only
and stuff.
minions.
Yeah,
I mean, it reduces tower damage too.
Yeah, it's all damage.
That's not heroic.
Heroics, yeah.
I just kind of assumed that was mercs and minions for some reason.
The only problem is that ETC's not really, pushing hero, so...
Well, it's not about pushing, it's about, like, diving towers and stuff.
That's
if he
true.
goes first, he can tank it, so...
Definitely some utility there, but I think the common pick is loudspeakers. That's what I go with.
yeah, same.
That's the common. Yep.
Actually,
Now,
not
just a
bad.
question about ETC and your guys' scrimmaging. Do you typically use the combination of the power slide in and then the loudspeaker shoot backwards, or do you typically save those to kind of peel for your ADC your ADC for your assassin characters?
Yeah, for the ADCs. Well, I think it actually depends on our lineup. If we have somebody, if we're running like 2 ranged assassins and they need lots of peeling, they have a lot of dives and stuff, then you would save all your abilities pretty much just to peel, right? You wouldn't use them as like an engager, more of as like a defensive peeler for those like ranged characters. So it kind of just depends on the lineup. If you have a more dive heavy comp, then you would he would just dive in on him and ult, or even save the ult to keep the threat up the entire fight.
Yeah, he's actually really good both ways. Like maybe one of the best aggressive team fighters, just because he has so much lockdown, and then Moshpit, of course. But he's also really, really good at peeling. So it's kind of just whatever your team needs. The only thing is, if you're gonna do that Q in and then W thing, you usually only really do that to try and like set up a kill, like knock someone into your team. Because if you just go in and do that, unless it's like a certain kind of composition, you're more likely to just knock everyone out of skill shots or mess up targeting or whatever. Like that,
It's a punish play for sure.
Yeah, disruption that big and that spread out and that unprecise, it can really easily backfire. It's like Diablo flipping someone out of a stun and that kind of stuff. So you gotta be kind of careful about that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
So loudspeakers all around.
I think it's pretty unanimous. I mean, we saw the straw poll agrees pretty heavily. I'll look at it again. It's 71% for loudspeakers. No surprise there. Moving on to tier 3 though.
All right, tier 3 we have block. Periodically reduce the damage received from hero basic attacks by 50%. Stores up to 2 charges. Battle momentum. Basic attacks reduce ability cooldowns by 0.5 seconds. Monster Slide increases the width of Power Slide by 50%. And Guitar Hero, after using Guitar Solo, your next basic attack strikes immediately deals double damage and heals you for 50% of the damage done. So 100% of your normal attack damage. Which I don't know why they phrased it in such a weird way, but yeah. So, level 7. Now this is where I actually didn't understand the full use of battle momentum, and Greg, I'm sure you saw that last night when we were talking about it. I didn't know that battle momentum also works on your heroic abilities cooldowns as well. I thought it was like rewind.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Kev.
But the fact that it works on heroics.
Oh my gosh, Kev.
Holy crap,
I was taking battle momentum, and he was like, "No, why are you doing that? Like, just for the other abilities." And I'm like, "No, for the heroic." He's like, "No, it doesn't work." I'm like, "Oh God, have I been wasting my time?" So I actually went in and checked it, and yeah, it definitely does work for your heroic too, which is huge because the cooldown on Mosh Pit, which is I'm sure what the majority of people take. I don't even know what the cooldown on Stage Dive is, but it's huge.
This cooldown is non-existent because you don't get it.
Right. Anyway, so it's got a huge cooldown, so you really need to be trying to lower that as much as you can. I think battle momentum's the way to go for this tier, just because everything else is like meh. There's some decent things here, but I don't know. That's my vote.
When I played him, I think I always got Monster Slide, just figuring more CC was good. But our tank player actually sent me, Cloudrun actually sent me his build, and he says he always gets Guitar Hero, the one where your next attack crits and heals you up. And I remember him talking about that and saying it was really awesome. So
yeah. It actually gives them a lot more DPS, and the cool thing is like you can cancel your animation for attacks. So it's like you can attack, and right after you immediately attack, when you hit E, it like procs another attack, right? So it's almost like
it does say it strikes immediately.
It gives you some burst.
Double strike with that'd be.
So that gives you like 300% damage every time the E is up, which is a really low cooldown.
Every 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And also, because you don't go path of the warrior, because you don't go path of the warrior, and you're playing more for like the sustain in fight, like that helps with that, right? Because you get some healing.
This is assuming you're going with groupies instead of path, but yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Cool, makes sense. I definitely see that making a lot of sense if you're going with groupies, or but. What are
you guys' thoughts on the battle momentum? I'm surprised.
There's so many things that I've never grabbed for Guitar Solo. I just thought it was basically ability to sit there and just hit, so you get the extra attack speed buff to everybody. But I've never actually played around with it enough, and now I actually have to go back and play it.
Yeah. I think a big part of the reason is because we initially started picking him like just for the auras, for the attack speed auras, like pick assassins and get Tyrant and EDC, and just try and buff out their attack speed as much as possible. So we played around with all of the E talents and realized that they're actually really good. So yeah, he kind of just completely focuses on that and just spams E all game long, plus mosh pits and disables.
Cool. Pretty split on the straw polls here. Monster Slide getting 7 votes, Guitar Hero with 7, and Battle Momentum with 5. Interesting that a lot of people go with Monster Slide. I mean, again, I think a lot of people have the same mentality as Greg, where it's more CC, therefore,
I think actually reading through the tier now, I would either, if I'm playing it for the aura and playing for like team focus, I would get the Guitar Hero. Otherwise, Battle Momentum. It's because having Mosh Pit up is so important.
Yeah.
I've personally always earned a Battle Momentum, but I definitely want to try Guitar Hero more now. Cool.
Alrighty, and then level 10.
We don't need to talk about this one.
Level
Except
10.
to tell people never
about?
to get stage dive.
Isn't stage dive like the coolest thing in the world? Everybody wants a stage dive. That's like why everybody becomes a teenage musician, just so you get that one chance to stage dive. Why would you not want to pick stage dive on the rock god?
Guys,
stage dive's legit.
It's viable now. You can go straight into the mines, right? Right?
I remember at BlizzCon getting very excited about this. I was like, I can go anywhere, dash in, it hits everybody. And we're like, that's so broken. Mobility is too good. But
well, everything we said at BlizzCon was so scrubby and bad. We just got excited about the newbiest things. Like, oh my god, it's great. But no.
Well, and everyone looks at globals and assumes they're going to be as good as they are in League or Dota, and they're just not, because the game doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
Very true.
But stage dive is one of those, like in solo queue, there's a few ults. You see people get stage dive and Robo Goblin and I don't know. There's a few others, and you just
Water
you're like,
Dragon. That's a good
yeah,
one.
yeah, Water Dragon.
Water
You're just like,
Dragon is so good. No.
Okay.
This is gonna be a
okay.
hard game.
I grab Water Dragon ironically as I adjust my hipster glasses.
Saving face.
Oh god, a Gazla that gets the freaking Robo Goblin is the most tragic thing ever because
Yeah.
Graviton Bomb is
I
just
see it.
so good.
Oh.
It's tragic.
So,
Well,
that's a quick one.
yeah, quick one. But we do actually have
Let's
17%.
talk about mosh pit though. Let's talk about mosh pit.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
So, all right, yeah.
What are good times to mosh pit? What are you trying to accomplish with your mosh pit? I mean, obviously trying to get, aside from the possibility of getting all 5 people in one mosh pit, what are other good reasons, good ways to use mosh pit?
Well, in case the viewers don't know, the way Mosh Pit works is basically ETC channels Mosh Pit, which effectively stuns, it makes everyone around them dance. Every enemy around them dance. Those enemies can be attacked by your allies. ETC is busy channeling his ability, but everyone is vulnerable that is within the Mosh Pit. Now, ETC can be stunned, can be polymorphed. You know, if Uther wants to throw his hammer at him, whatever, you can
Any
stop
disruption.
him. Yes,
Yeah.
you can stop him quite easily. So it's something you want to wait for them to throw out a couple stuns before you use it.
So you can kind of wombo with it a little bit with Zeratul, depending on the positioning of the Void Prison that goes down. It's a little tricky to pull off. I don't know. I'm curious to hear.
You can actually wombo really easy with Zagara, like because our
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
pretty much already start it right before it releases.
Yeah.
You know, and
He's standing
continue
right on top of it.
Right, the channel. But we actually don't use him a lot for wombo type stuff. Like
Mhm.
you know, we talked about we use him a lot more for his like auras and that type of play that he can and disruption that he can actually provide. And so one thing that we actually like to have, you know, especially as the current high level in this game, a lot of people already are aware of it, right? They're trying to like spread out and, you know, make sure they're not clumped together at any time during the fight. And so the threat of having it is actually just as strong a lot of the time as actually just using it. You know what I mean? So it forces them because they're always afraid you're going to use it. And so a lot of times we go through an entire fight to where we'll actually use it, you know, near the end of the fight instead of as the initiate or something.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see that.
Now, Kev's original question was, what targets do you go for? Do you go for the healer? Do you go for the assassins? What's the best target or 2 targets to get?
Any team is likely to have a disable that can stop it. Like, there's enough heroes. You have polymorph, you have range stuns, you have whatever. So usually, if you just try and like aim for a priority target, you're going to get knocked out right away because it's such a big threat. And like Jake said, everyone's very aware of it at this point. That whoever's responsible for canceling it, whoever has that disable, you're just going to be sitting in the back waiting to see the little dance thing start up. Then they cancel it immediately, and you're down a big spell. So generally, unless you can get to people who actually have the disables, you're just going to want to hold on to it until stuff starts to fall apart, and they're far away from a priority target, or you have to catch someone, or whatever. Like, you shouldn't really be looking for 5-man mosh pits, because they're not going to happen. And you shouldn't be looking to just charge in and initiate, because unless the team is really, really unprepared, you're just like somehow jumping on them. That's part of the reason that he's so good with Duran, because you got Shadow Stock, which actually lets it happen sometimes. But normally, you're not going to get an amazing one. Like, the threat of it being more important than the actual spell is totally true, like, between 2 competent teams. So you kind of just have to hold on to it and be like, I might use it, you can't coordinate against us.
Especially because it will save them from using the polymorph. So if they have one and that's their dedicated person, so then you know, okay, they're not even going to use polymorph in this fight, and then they're going to be scattering around. That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah, that's another really cool thing. Like, if you have a Kerrigan or someone who usually likes to jump in but is totally shut down by just getting polymorphed right away, then they either choose to use that on the Kerrigan or they have to hold it for the ETC. In either way, they're going to have trouble.
Right.
Right. It's also the same for like Diablo's ultimate. Like a lot of times in ranked play, when ETC's picked, Diablo's picked right after because he's a counter ult, right? Like he just hits the R button and interrupts it guaranteed every time, no matter where he is. And so if you don't use your ult, then if like the mosh pit's not used, then that means that Diablo's ult a lot of the times will be saved too, to where he won't actually activate his until the mosh pit happens. So it also kind of delays them from using their heroics and stuff.
Makes a lot of sense.
Or unless you can get all of the crowd controlling heroes on the enemy team in one mosh pit.
Exactly.
The dream.
You sit in a bush and just pray.
The more you talk about the Tyrande Shadowstalk with ETC, the more I want to try that, because I like Tyrande a lot, but she's She's
picking up steam.
She's picking up steam.
I had a long conversation with Matt about this yesterday, and he was telling me about how
100 mark
really,
makes her a lot better than she was.
Yeah.
I think she's like pretty high tier actually.
Wow.
Like, I think she's much better than people give her credit
That's
for.
the impression I'm getting. Yeah.
I think she's absolutely fantastic if she has synergy. She's like one of the worst standalone supports, I think.
Yeah.
Although she can even be kind of self-sufficient, because if you build her damage, her DPS is pretty legit.
Yeah,
and you can kind of make things happen that way.
Yeah, True Shot's great, that's for sure.
But as a support, she needs partners.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But moving on, we're not talking about Tyrande.
Yep, it could be.
level 13 on ETC. Kev.
Level 13, we've got Relentless. Reduces the duration of stuns, slows, and roots against your hero by 50%. Uber Rockstar. The Rockstar aura also adds 25% bonus movement speed and Face Melt. Enemies hit by Face Melt are also slowed by
I think
Gents, what you thinking?
I'm thinking that the Uber Rockstar is just too good to pass up.
It's really, really good, especially, again, when you're focusing on the E-spam. Just because you're casting so many spells, you're constantly, every 8 seconds.
Three seconds?
25%.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, 5-second downtime on the move speed buff for your entire team.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a place for Face Melt. If you can catch somebody out of position and you knock them into your party, and they've got that ridiculous amount of slow on them, yeah, they're dead. They're dead for sure. But I think overall you're going to see a lot more utility out of Rockstar because it procs off of every ability that you use.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And just positioning, you if you need to save someone, you need to peel, whatever.
Yeah, you can run. Like, that gives you boots basically. So, yeah, it's very good. I hope that's what our viewers take. Did they?
Yeah, it's, you know what? A lot of them wait until we talk. That's what I've noticed. They wait. They're like, all right.
Cheeky.
What's Idra saying? All right, Idra said this. Yeah, that's my vote. That's my vote. I'm right. Feeling good. But yeah, Uber Rockstar seems to be the majority, but Face Melt people grab it. Relentless is by far the least picked, which is no surprise. But yeah, I think that's pretty clean cut. Like you said, Face Melt has its place. And I could see it actually being really fun in certain comps that are like assassin heavy. It's just like you're gonna get those guaranteed kills. It'd just be a fun way to play the character. But I love movement speeds. I'm always gonna grab Uber Rockstar myself. 16.
All right, guys. So we've got Imposing Presence. Enemies that attack you have their attack speed slowed by 30%. Head Crack increases stun duration of Power Slide by 50%. Guitar Instrumental. Guitar solos durations increased by 100%. And Stone Skin. Activate to gain 30% of your max health as shields for 5 seconds. It's got a 60-second cooldown. And I just want to say right now that I saw a Falstad grab Stone Skin yesterday, and I cried.
You got that instead of Afterburner?
Yeah, Afterburner or Rewind or something like. Come on, there's better choices.
Dude, that guy's
He was
a genius.
experimenting. He was experimenting.
That guy's a genius. Afterburner's got nerfed. He knows what he's doing.
He grabbed Zap.
Oh, that guy. That's
Zap, Fly Away, Shock and Awe, Overdrive, and Stone Skin.
Oh,
I don't know if I've ever
And I almost pinned a medal to my screen exactly where he was on my screen for bravery. That's like the bravest build. He's like, you know what, Falstad's so overpowered, I don't even have to get any of his good abilities.
It's so awful being able to see talents in solo queue now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
before I was just
depressing.
like, oh, that guy's an idiot. Oh well, this game was terrible. But now, if I do it whenever I'm dead or whatever, I go look at their talents. I'm
Just
like,
why?
How did that make sense to you?
Why?
I use it a lot to plug my show. I'm just like, hey, I noticed your talent build's pretty good. However, we did a discussion about this a couple weeks back, and you might want to be able to check it out. Town Hall show.
I've actually seen you do that, and it's brilliant. I love it.
I've got like at least 10 people to watch our show just because of that stuff.
It's great,
All right?
man.
I'm sorry I'm working for our show, trying to make it good and have a fan base. My bad, guys.
Hey, no one was faulting you for it. Relax.
Well, anyways, we already talked about a guitar instrumental earlier, having the synergy with the tier 1 talent. Let's take a look at the tier 1 talent just to remind everyone. Groupies, you guys pair that, you get the healing, and then at level 16 you get the additional healing. Pretty good.
I was taking that without even having that synergy. It's still a good talent on its own.
It's true,
Like,
but the synergy makes it even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
And it seems like a good chunk of the viewers agree. It looks like 45% take it, but 36% taking head crack.
I can see that. I mean, especially in a solo queue environment, if you're not really doing that synergy type build with the Aurus, then yeah, why not get some extra stun on the dash? It's
Honestly,
reasonable.
I always went with head crack, but now that I'm hearing this guitar instrumental business,
It's very convincing. I can see
It's just a lot of sustain. And it's kind of the name of the
yeah,
game.
you know, like the only thing is like I kind of was worrying that it was going to get into the Muradin situation where Muradin's got a lot of sustain and he can survive through like a nuclear blast. But the problem is that it's not as useful because he doesn't really do that much. And so I was kind of afraid that ETC would be the same thing if I didn't grab all of his CC stuff. That's why I kind of didn't go for it. But
Muradin only heals himself. This is sustain for the whole team.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
And minions,
much,
right?
much better.
Yeah.
Is it?
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't heal minions.
It doesn't?
It's-
Okay.
Yeah, he gives them the auras though, so that's good.
Pretty good, that's for sure.
Pretty good.
All right. Yeah, I think
20?
that's it. Yep, level 20.
and level 20, Resurgence of the Storm. If you don't pick this, I mean, oh my god. Upon dying, revive back at your altar after 5 seconds. This can occur once every 120 seconds. Fury of the Storm. Basic attacks bounce twice to nearby enemies for 50% damage. Death Metal. Makes dancing enemies vulnerable. Increases damage taken by 25%. Rock God, which he already is, so I don't know why there's another one of these. Reduces the cast time and air time of stage dive by 50% and increases the damage dealt by 50%. And Bolt of the Storm. Community manager Trixler's favorite ability in the entire game, always picks it 100%, no excuses.
I just see him mashing.
Activate to teleport
chat.
to the target location.
Bolt into mosh pit, he says in the chat.
Yeah. This is like one of the 4 heroes he's right on. Bolt, yeah.
Wow.
Bolt is pretty freaking awesome.
Bolt is amazing on ETC, both for setting up mosh pits and like
W's.
just general chasing and catching and setting up with W's. Like Resurgence is good, but I think Bolt is too good to pass up on him.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
Like the possibilities of being able to peel with bolts and stuff is just so good.
I play too much solo queue, so I'm always just, anytime there's Resurgence, I'm like, well, my team's gonna fail me, and I'm gonna die, so I have to always pick Resurgence.
I kind of have the same mentality, honestly. But I definitely see the value in Bolt. And if I'm definitely playing a competitive game like a scrim, yeah, Bolt's the way to go.
It's
Like,
funny
even
because on Diablo, it's like a no-brainer for me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you bolt so you can get the flip. Like, I don't know why I just never didn't apply the same logic to ETC because it's really the same thing.
Absolutely.
Even in solo queue, if you have Bolt, that's like the one time you might
Yeah.
actually get that 5-man mosh pit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can see that happening in solo
Yeah,
queue.
but you're in solo queue, you get that 5-man mosh pit, and your whole team just walks away. Hooray!
At least you feel good about yourself.
And then you die.
That's a moral victory.
I guess.
So you can feel good about that guy who took the terrible, terrible talents. At least you got the 5-man.
At least the Falstad zap hit them a few times.
Yep. Ah, jeez.
Poor Falstead. He's like crying right now. Like he knows who he is. Like
He knows what he did.
I feel sorry for him. He's like, I just wanted to try something new. Like
Not in my game.
I'll show them 2 years later when like all those abilities are actually buffed. He's gonna be
Zap
like,
meta.
yeah, I was
Check it
right.
out. I swear
I
it
think
was
I've
me. They
literally
didn't
never
mention my
s-
name.
I
Well,
think I've literally never seen anyone get zapped.
That's
for good reason.
I don't think so.
For good reason.
I've never seen anybody grab Stone Skin. I've literally never picked Stone Skin once.
Well,
I
we
can see
can.
that because you're like, I'm a squishy hero. I need more survivability. This is a shield, so I'll get that instead of afterburner. So that doesn't make much sense. But still, like, there's something there. Who looks at Zap and is like, yeah, that's gonna help my DPS enough to be worth it.
Well, we can see that our viewers tend to pick Resurgence and Bolt pretty even right there. And if people will grab Death Metal, I mean the extra 25% on your mosh pit, extra 25% damage received as anyone dancing your mosh pit. Not bad by any means, but
I'm surprised that's not more popular, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
It's just-
even necessary for like a wombo combo though. Like that's when you're
No.
gonna need it, and it's just not necessary. So
right.
I think the feeling is if you get a good mosh pit off, you get a good mosh pit off. Like the extra damage is probably not going to be necessary.
right, so.
Yeah. If you get a good mosh pit, you're probably gonna kill him anyways.
Yeah.
So Bolt or Resurgence are just more utility, more uses. Well, cool. Cool.
Let's get some. I'm curious to hear some overall thoughts from you guys. How do you guys feel about ETC right now in the meta, competitive meta?
I actually think he's, he's come up and down, but between like how I've thought about him. But I actually feel like he's actually a lot better than a lot of people give him thought for. I thought maybe he was a little bit weak because there's so many people that could knock him out of his ult. But then when I realized like the power that he actually gives between his healing and auras and all that crap, that it's actually has, it's not even his ult that makes him very good. It's actually just how much disruption and stuff he can actually give to a team. So I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I honestly might value him over almost any other like pure tank, not the bruiser types, but the ones who are actually just big, like they absorb damage and they're disruptive. It's like him and Diablo are very, very close for number one. And after that's like Muradin or whatever. But he's really, really good, especially with synergy. He's like him and Duran together are maybe one of the best pairs in the game.
I love that idea. That sounds so fun. I'm definitely going to play that soon, Kubi.
Yeah, we'll do it. That'll be fun.
Yep, that's happening.
That is a thing now. Okay, cool.
Well, like I
Good
said
stuff.
earlier, I played a little bit of him over the last couple of weeks, but I tend to stray away from warriors personally. It's just not my play style. I like the supports, I like the range characters, but ETC is one of the few warriors that I can tolerate just because he has the dash, he has the initiate, he has the knockback. I just feel like he's got so much utility and so much ability to peel. Not that Diablo and the other heroes don't. Something about ETC, it's just badass. He's got 3 guitars.
It's the mobility. You like the
When
mobility.
2 is not enough.
The mobility is really what does it for me, though, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, any final thoughts on ETC?
That's pretty much it for me.
I mean, you play him if you want to be a rock star, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Only if you grab stage dive, though. Only. Mosh pits, I mean, they're cool, but everybody in the crowd does a mosh pit. Who does the stage dives? The real rock stars.
Listen,
I'm
I'm
sorry,
all for
this
it.
is all joke. This
Stage
is all
dive,
joke.
go.
Please, guys, please don't. Please,
Go.
please. If I see more stage dive now
Yes.
because of Kevin, I will punch
If you play in Sham2's game, go stage dive. He'll love it.
Yes, please do. Only when you're on the enemy team, though.
All right, well, we are going to take a quick break. I'm going to grab some water. When we get back, we are going to be talking about the esports elements of Heroes of the Storm, scrimming, popular team composition, picks, bans, solo queue versus pre-mades, and your questions. So if you guys have not seen the Reddit thread, go to reddit.com/r/Heroes of the Storm. Leave us some questions. We might answer them at the end of the show, but we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Town Hall episode 22. We are joined again by Idra and LzGamer, and we are about to start a discussion on Heroes of the Storm as an esport. Now, we usually talk about it a little bit, but this show is going to be very heavy-centric on just the competitive aspects of the game. And I think we all kind of agree that the game has a lot of potential as an esport. I think that's a big part of the reason why we're all playing it. Kevin and I both work at MLG. Idra and LZ, you guys both played on a competitive team for Starcraft 2 and Brood War? Did you guys both play Brood War?
Yeah.
LZ, you played
Yep.
Brood War as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Corey has a long history as a competitive fighting game guy. And so we all have a big esports background, and I think we all have a lot of faith in the game. But what does the game actually have to do to be successful as an esport?
Custom games.
But I mean, there's all the obvious stuff that's definitely going to come, like custom games and spectator mode and ladders and whatnot. I don't know. I feel like the game is really well set up for competition, actually. It's very fast-paced, very exciting. There's a big team element, which I'm not sure if I fully understand. Like, I come from an individual game background, and I still kind of like that more. But people really seem to prefer watching team games, and people like to play team games, so that seems to be a positive. So it's got that going for it. I don't know. Overall, it feels like a league that is faster paced and like it's new, so they can do different things with it. They don't necessarily have to get stuck into whatever league has done. They can learn from those mistakes. They can keep the meta a little bit more fluid and interesting. Like one of the things I most dislike about League was it felt like they were trying to shoehorn things into place. Like it felt like Riot had a definite vision about what they wanted the game to work, like how they wanted it to work, and they would just shoehorn the game into that, and then just rotating heroes through, or champions through, and making them very similar to each other, and just kind of filling the same role with the same buttons, doing slightly different things with different flavor. So I feel like Heroes has the good parts of that, and it's still early enough that they can avoid that, and it feels like they have been thus far. It feels like they're trying for diversity and to do new. Imagine something like Murky in another MOBA, and just the fact that it has like the map editor and all. Are they going to have a map editor? It has multiple maps.
They
and
said
might
it
have an
will.
I
editor.
think so.
They said
I think they said they will.
all of these StarCraft 2 tools and more will be available in the game. We haven't seen any confirmation, but early on they did say we will have it.
So yeah, multiple maps is just so much potential just in and of itself. So I think a lot of it comes down to how Blizzard handles it and how interesting and diverse and all balance, of course, comes into anything competitive. But if they run it well, I think it has all of the tools necessary to be an esport.
Now this is banking off something that Dustin Browder said in an interview at BlizzCon. Now, Dustin Browder said that if the community doesn't like what Blizzard provides in terms of like the ladder that we see now with the 4 maps or whatever, the format that they provide, and they want to create their own custom one map style similar to League and Dota, Blizzard would kind of consider to go in a route with that for esports, maybe create its own ladder or something. He didn't say that exactly, but he kind of hinted at that it being a possibility. Do you think that is a possibility, or do you think that the unique flair of the multiple maps is kind of what makes Heroes what it is?
I think the uniqueness, the maps, is an awesome thing that the community is happy about and it's going to embrace, and I think it would be just a horrendous waste to not take advantage of that, to just go back to the same old boring system. And especially since, it's not as complex as Dota. It's a different game from Dota. You're not going to have so much of the flashiness and excitement and quality coming out of, individual plays. There's not as much that you can do with the heroes. There's just not as much individual skill there. So I think looking to the battlegrounds, the maps, for different levels of complexity, the decision-making, the teamwork, and all that comes with dealing with different objectives. I think that's, a really, really cool, smart solution to how do I make this more how do they fit into that Blizzard thing of easy to learn, difficult to master, all that. I think different battlegrounds is a fantastic way to deal with that. It'd be horrendously stupid to not take advantage of it.
I agree. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think you highlighted the 2 big things there. It's going to be about Blizzard support, and it's going to be about the game's uniqueness. I mean, there's thousands of MOBAs popping up all the time. There's 2 well-established ones. They realize that they need to make a very different and weird game to survive in the MOBA market, really.
Weird.
So, and they know that, and they're embracing it, and that's important, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're already seeing support, not to cut you off, but we're already seeing support because they have said there's going to be a tournament of some extent at BlizzCon. So we can definitely see some kind of support. In our introductions, LZ actually said WCS is what turned him off from Starcraft 2. Are you worried that WCS is going to kill Heroes?
Oh,
No, it's way too early to even kill Heroes. So,
that game.
yeah, it's not that game yet. I don't even think it's been born yet. It's still still in the womb right now.
Blizzard
you know
could abort
what?
it.
Could abort it. They did it once. I never got my $50 from GameStop back. Like Nova. Frickin'.
Oh, you talking about StarCraft Ghost?
Yeah, Ghost. That's what it was. Sorry. Anyways, my thoughts on this is I think they have a really awesome thing here. This is what it feels like to me. It doesn't actually feel like League or Dota, right? It feels like a completely different game. One of the beauties of it is that games actually don't take 9 million years to complete, right? Like I've watched some of the the Dota 2 games, and some of them go like 50+ minutes,
It's awful.
and it's just and I'm just like, my God, like how many times they have to wipe a team to actually kill them,
Right.
And so that's one of the beauties of this is that you can actually play a best of 3 in a reasonable time, right? The maps are awesome. I think that's one of the coolest things. That was actually the biggest turnoff of League and Dota. And so when I saw this game had different maps, I thought it was like just a really awesome concept they actually had. And it feels like a brawler more than just like a regular defined quote-unquote MOBA, right? And so it actually feels like, a World of Warcraft Battlegrounds had a baby with League of Legends or something. And that's what this is. So I think it's really awesome. I think they're going to do really well on it. And I think, even though they came into the market late, from like League, Dota, and all the other MOBAs out there, Infinite Crisis or whatever that game is called. Yeah, I think they're doing I think they're going to take a lot that they've learned and just be able to apply some of it. I feel like they can learn from other people's mistakes because they even jumped on this even a little bit late. I think it's pretty awesome.
Plus, a lot of the problems with WCS, I think, stem from just the existence of Korean esports and their interaction with StarCraft. Because, we're going to host this tournament or this ongoing league to try and bolster foreign esports, but we're also going to pay for Koreans to come over and they can play in all the qualifications they want. And just another country picks up on it. And plus, they can learn from all their mistakes with that. There's no reason to assume that, because WCS at its heart is just an esports company putting a bunch of money into people playing their game competitively. There's not a whole things that are generically wrong with the model. There's just some quirks and flaws with the community. It came kind of too late, but I mean, now they already have it in place. If they decide to embrace Heroes, if the community takes it up as an esport, they have everything all ready to go, and kind of an unblemished community and game to work with. So I don't think there's any reason to assume that just because WCS wasn't a particular success, they won't be able to manage Heroes as an esport. I don't know much about Hearthstone, but I would imagine that would be the better thing because they're kind of adopting as it goes, and it seems to be picking up. People seem to enjoy it. I know they've had some involvement, but I don't know enough about Hearthstone to really talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably like the second most viewed game on Twitch. That might, or maybe next, maybe third most. But it's definitely a huge game. It doesn't even have a spectator client. So I know they're working on that, but I feel like that's
okay.
Kind of,
Maybe I take that back. Maybe they're not managing that too well as an esport. How does it not have a spectator client?
they're working
The
on
other really
it.
big thing about their misstep with Hearthstone was during the DreamHack finals. If I remember correctly, I heard that they forced DreamHack to use the iPad client, which did not have the busy or ignore feature, and that's where those whole entire stemming of private messages came about.
Greg, if you don't know what happened, basically somebody messaged someone, the other hand, and that player went. I think it was Liquid Amaz that went on to get robbed essentially in the finals.
Okay, I take it back. Let's just hope they learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have all the hurdles that StarCraft had to deal with, so it should be easier than that.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to assume that WCS would pick up Heroes once it got into competitive play, and having the infrastructure that ESL has built over in Europe and now in NA, and of course in Korea has already had a very strong esports infrastructure for the many years. I think just WCS transitioning and adding Heroes would be really great to see. And I mean, Kevin and I both work at MLG, and we talk about Heroes a lot at the office, and all of our coworkers hear us rambling about it. And a lot of guys play at the office, so who knows what could happen with that as well. So there's definitely a lot of hope there. But
I think my question, I just want to interject a question before we start getting into scrimming and whatnot. I think the biggest question that I have right now is pretty much the biggest problem that most people have with Heroes of the Storm is that because it's detracting away from personal achievements, do you think that there's still going to be those players out there that you're going to be like, oh, that's so and so, he's always so good with this, like, you know, like how they have like special in League of Legends, or
Froggen with
Froggen
Olivia.
with Frog and Nivea. That's the biggest problem that we see with heroes, is that it takes away from individuals performing really well. Do you think that's still going to be possible in Heroes of the Storm? Do you think that's going to be downgraded a lot, or do you think people are going to be cheering for entire teams instead of being like, I love this team because so and so's on it?
Well, a lot of that's going to come down to the casters telling the story of the players, and if the casters like can find that one Stitches that is like really good at just landing ridiculous hooks and really highlight that story, they can build that player and make that player a brand. A lot of it just comes down to the casters creating those personalities. Like, I hate to say it, but like, you know, you could have 4 Stitches and one is slightly better than the other one, and casters just decide to ride on one of them, just like, yeah, this guy's the best.
He could be worse than the other ones.
He could be. But if the casters decide that they like him the best, you know, you bought day 9 drinks at the bar, he's going to hype you up the next tournament. So, you know, that's a big part of it. A big part of it is just making people into celebrities. And there will always be celebrities in esports, in any sports, or any pop culture thing you see in the world.
And another thing is, I forget who said it. Someone said it, personality. Like, that's kind of what it comes down to. If you're on a winning team and you're the big personality on the team, you're the one who draws attention or does interviews well, or just there's something interesting about you, that'll still make you a solo star, even if your individual play isn't as flashy. But people are also kind of underestimating the ability to make flashy plays or like be a standout skilled player in it. And it's still early on, but that goes both ways. Like, we haven't seen a lot of the more complex, interesting, weird heroes that I'm sure they have planned. Like, if you look at the initial heroes or the initial champions that came out during League Beta, like, there's not a whole lot you can do with them compared to a Zed or all of the other ones that came out later. So it's possible they add more heroes that allow you to make more flashy plays and be more of an iconic player within the game. But even with the existing ones, like, there are people, even amongst like just the small competitive player community, people are already recognized and they get respect bans and drafts and stuff like that. So there's definitely room to set yourself aside or make yourself stand out playing wise, talent wise.
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah, I agree with that. I think, you know, I don't even think people have mastered the characters as it is now, right? Like, you still see people miss hooks, you still see people make mistakes or bad calls, and so like people are obviously getting better as they play. And I think, you know, as people get better and better at specific heroes, then it'll stand out even more. One person that plays on our team plays like Stitches all the time, and because of that, like, he gets Stitches almost respect banned like every game. Like, they almost ban him no matter who we play, and it's because he's like really, really solid at making those hooks. You know, he hits them almost every time, and they're not even in the screen, right? Just from playing him so much and mastering one character down. So I think we'll definitely see more and more of that, and I think there's a lot more you know, individual skill that comes into the game that you'll actually be able to notice as the game progresses.
It's good to hear. It's promising.
I mean, I agree entirely. I think the game has a ton of potential. I mean, people say that the game has like less skill because there's no last hitting and stuff like that, but it's a different kind of game. It's all about it. The maps are a lot smaller. You start out with all your talents. It's like you said earlier. It's a brawler. It's not a MOBA. It's a very different kind of game.
The last hit equals skill thing was just always so stupid to me too. Because like in Dota, sure, it's relatively hard to farm, but in League, if you're like if you are even thinking of being competitive, you get every last hit that is available to you. Like, the difficulty in farming is finding the farm or like efficiently finding farm without hurting your team. Like, finding it, being with them when they need to, not denying it to other people who need it more and whatnot. And that still happens with experience. Like, if you can recognize when your team does not need you and you're out pushing lane and then you come join them just in the nick of time, that's the exact same kind of skill as someone in League finding farm. It's just not quite as visible because you're obviously only getting experience, which is team-wide, instead of the gold for items, and you don't get individually fed. But it's the same impact for your team, and it's the exact same skill. Like, to say that because there's no last hitting, it is inherently less difficult than League is just absolutely stupid.
So
it always annoys me when people say that.
One thing that Blizzard recently added the feel good build, where we have like the fiery portrait and the number of kills got, and it shows your damage and healing and stuff, which is all really great. Do you think experience earned should be on that for individual experience earned, or do you think the damage and healing is enough?
I think there's no reason not to have experience. It's like a very important part of the game, and there were definitely disparities between like some players would consistently find ways to get more experience than whoever they're with, like beforehand when you could see it before. So I think that should be up there. That's a pretty important stat.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Cool. All right, so let's jump on into scrimming. Yeah. Now, right now, we had custom games in the alpha, and then Steve, he's a big community guy, ran a tournament, and the tournament,
our lives.
Yeah, Kings of the Storm it was called. It was an amazingly well-run event. He actually did a lot of stats after the event. A lot of people streamed it, but the one clause that Blizz said is they said, please do not stream tournaments. Like, I think they said flat out, just please do not stream tournaments. The one thing we asked, don't do it. And sure enough, the week after the tournament, custom games were gone. It was a lot of fun. I think a lot of new eyes actually got their eyes on the game, just watching first-person perspectives. It wasn't necessarily casted because there's no spectator client. It'd be pretty hard to cast the game live. You could cast from replays. I think a few people actually tried to do that as well. But I mean, that being said, even without the custom games, scrimming is still happening. For those
kind of.
It's being attempted. There's basically a chat channel on the alpha where people use to connect, do their picks and bans, and attempt to launch scrims against each other. But just you guys do it a lot. How much of a headache is it?
It's gotten horrendous in the last week. Like, I'm not sure what changed. I know they're letting a lot more people in since they opened it up internationally and all that, but it's like almost impossible to find. I don't know if MMR's system changed or what. But yeah, normally you just like queue up at the same time, and all of the competitive teams are high enough MMR that in theory we hit each other, and that's how it used to work. But now it's getting to the point where it's kind of a crapshoot. Like half the time you just get a bunch of randoms, half the time you get the team you're trying to get.
Yeah, it's probably like 50% this week at best.
Oh.
Jeez. So then, do you guys just queue up again and again? Does the other team wait, or do they go like pub stomp a game real quick as well, or?
Yeah, it's usually they go pub stomp. You know, if we don't get them or if they don't get us, then we usually just still finish our queue, play the game, and then try again afterward. But it kind of gets frustrating.
At that point, you've both been queuing for 6 minutes, so they're probably about to get a bunch of randoms themselves anyway. So we just kind of hope that the games are equal length and try again afterwards.
So then my question is, why don't we turn scrimming into how badly you can pub stomp the other pub team? And then at the end be like, oh yeah, well I got 46 kills with a stone skin Falstad.
That's actually kind of what it turns into, to be honest.
It sounds like, honestly,
it's more of a race.
I mean, when you look at it that way, and you guys are getting paired against new players and just rolling them, you guys might actually be turning new players away from the game.
We joke about that.
Because getting rocked in a game so hard is the most discouraging thing ever. Like, if you have a close game with other new players, oh, cool, all right, well, maybe if I do this, it'll be a little bit better. You can see improvement, but when you get four-stocked by a Roy, you just don't want to keep playing the game. No, but it's just like, it's not fun getting stomped. It isn't.
It's absolutely a problem. We always joke about it. We had one the other night. It was like, I think it ended up like 46-2 or 46-3 and ended in like 10 minutes. It's just like, it can't possibly be fun for these guys. Like,
yeah, those deaths were all you, all three?
Your feed?
Feeding? Yeah, no, but I mean, it sucks for the competitive guys that want to do the scrims, and it sucks for the new players that are getting stomped by people that actually know what they're doing.
Not even just that. It's like we have a preset team that kind of makes sense. Like, it's through picks and bans, but we picked it to have synergy, and we all have communication and stuff. And it's to the point where these people might as well be on their first games. Like, I'm not sure if they are or not, but they could be. They're that inexperienced with the game. They're not communicating with each other. They don't have any kind of coordination or anything. There's just, even if they were as good as us, without those extra elements, there's no way they would have any chance. And then you put the lack of skill on top of that, and it's just like they have to feel totally lost and complete waste of time.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem that's been happening. It's actually getting worse and worse as they opened up, and invited a whole new wave of, or whole new boatload of people. Yeah, internationally. So now it's it's like an ongoing and growing problem. So I'm hoping that some good news comes out with this next Q&A.
So you guys think that it's Blizzard has a hand in this, perhaps, because it's so sudden that they've made this change?
It was definitely a change of some sort. I don't think it makes sense for it just to be the fact that there's so many new players. It really felt like it had to be a change to the way MMR works.
Yeah.
It's because it was like night and day. I don't remember when it happened, but there was like one night we would play and we would get pretty much, if we could find a 5 stack or we recognized all their names, we could queue against them and it would work. Even if it was a pretty long queue, it would give us to them, or give them to us. But now it's just like completely random chance. And even at different points within the queue, like it used to be if you queue for 6 minutes, then it seems like MMR goes out the window and you just get whoever. But now, even if it's earlier than 6 minutes, like we can get a team, and even if there's a stack of 5 that we know has decent MMR queuing, we might hit them, or we might hit someone else who clearly is just completely inexperienced, low MMR. So I don't know what they could change to possibly make that, if it was a mistake, a bug, or if they're just messing with the restrictions or what, but something definitely changed.
That's unfortunate to hear, because if they did make an intentional change like that, like you guys were saying, it's like they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot for their new players. You know,
Right.
It's like, oh, we made a deliberate change that really makes people not want to play this game. So
I don't think it's good. I mean, somebody in chat said it pretty well. I mean, it's like, yeah, if you get stomped in like 10 minutes. You're like, well, I can't believe I just queued against freaking Idra, but let's see if I can get him,
Right,
luckier in the next
but
game.
if you're just a casual player that doesn't have any history in esports, never followed Starcraft 2, and you have no idea who Idra is, you're playing against 5 dudes that are supposed to be at your level, and they beat you. People are used to playing a game where it pairs you against people at your level. Granted, it's an alpha, the player pool isn't that big. It doesn't always work perfectly, but at the same time, they don't look at it that way. They look at it as, wow, that wasn't fun, I'm done with this game.
Yeah.
certainly could be happening. But it's unfortunate if that's the case.
I mean, I love rolling people. I giggle the whole way. I sit there on my stream and I make fun of you, and I have a glorious time, but I'm a bad person at the same time, so...
For people like me, though, like, I'm the competitive nature, so I'm like, wow, I just got my ass handed to me by that team. I got a lot to learn, and then I'm just like, I'm just going to go play the game a whole bunch more. But that's the kind of person I am.
Right, but not everyone's that way. Some people like to be... You need to ease them in. Be very gentle. Just a tip, you know?
Oh my god.
Moving on. So we talked about scrimming and just like the inherent problems that exist with scrimming right now, but let's talk about the scrims that are occurring. What are some popular compositions, but more specifically, let's talk about who's being banned right now. Idra?
Okay. Go ahead.
It's actually really cool to me how quickly the meta is shifting right now, because since the last patch up until like a week ago or so, I'd say, the supports were completely dominant. Like, it was rare to not have both bans be a support, and the first 3 picks be basically any supports except Lily and Tyran were the highest priority. And then, like, 4 or 5 days ago, people were like, hey, if we just pick Tyran and Barb and some kind of range damage, and we go on whoever their squishiest target is, they get deleted. And then we play 5v4, and that works out pretty well for us. And so that was like completely dominant for 2 or 3 days until people figured it out. And now you're like banning Tyrael or picking Barb to take that away from the combination. And it's moving into more like the sustained damage, the Tyrael or the Tychus and the Vala are the highest priorities, because people have been kind of shown that like healers don't necessarily dominate all, supports aren't absolutely untouchable. So they're trying to find different ways around it now that the Tyrael Barb has been taking out. It's rotating through really, really quickly. But I'd say Tychus Vala and Tyrael Barb are the 2 most important pairs right now. If you can get one of those, you're in pretty good shape in the draft. Because partly because it's so good for you, and partly because it denies really important things to your opponent.
Yeah.
Very
and the
cool.
other way, the other way of going about it that I've seen dominate just a lot is, how Greg just mentioned on one flip side, like DDs are the the thing right now. Well, on the other side is Brightwing Malfurion combo. If like your opponent gets both of them, they actually don't die. Like, you actually can't kill them. It's physically impossible. Especially if like Tyrael Barb and stuff, if Tyrael got banned, and then there's no way just to, erase somebody from the game. You literally can't kill them. With that much healing power, they just live through every fight. So that's another way I've been seeing a lot of people pick. If you just ignore the healers.
Is that Malfurion with Twilight Dream or Malfurion with Tranquility?
Tranquility. So it's like one person has like sustain heal, and then the Brightwing has the giant burst heals with like the auras to keep proccing.
So you get regenerative rains and you get blink heal. Okay. So it's like just overheal, like crazy amounts of heal. That sounds terrifying, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Did I hear you guys mention that Muradin is making a comeback? Is that a...
Muradin.
Our tank player actually likes him quite a bit, and we play him a
we
decent
actually use
amount.
him a lot.
Yeah, I want to hear about how he plays him. Does he do the typical like leap over and try to just knock somebody super out of position and start a fight that way, or is it just sort of general sustain because he's ridiculously tanky and just chain stuns together, or?
He actually doesn't use him necessarily just one way. It kind of depends on who we're playing against. You know, if they have a lot of people that have, you know, like channeled abilities, like let's say Witch Doctor or something like that, he'll actually go the Avatar, which makes him a lot more tanky, and he can interrupt a lot of different things, a lot of different types of channels and stuff like that. But he also uses the knockback, not necessarily to knock somebody into us every time. Instead, he a lot of times uses it to knock somebody out of the fight who might be, you know, the problem, like Malfurion who popped Tranquility or something like that, right? They knock him out of the fight for a period of time and let us get on all the DPS or something while the healer's not in the fight for a second. So it just depends, you know, if there's a tank, he'll knock the tank into us, or those type of things. But yeah, Murden is actually pretty strong in my opinion. It's a pretty good place.
That's pretty awesome to hear. Okay. That's pretty awesome. Okay. All right. Let's see.
So what are some really unconventional, like, do you have any, like, this is pretty crazy, but like 5 specialist type builds or playstyles, or, you know, something that's like you typically stay around a certain composition? I would assume you have 1 to 2. I'm just
yeah.
Well, 1 to 2 tanks, a healer, and 2 assassins. I would assume, you know, or 3 assassins, etc. Or, you know, two supports, as you were saying before. Is there a really unconventional team composition that doesn't really follow that type of general ratio?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different types of lineups. There's not necessarily even the best lineup. You know, it isn't set in stone yet to where it's like you want 2 supports, you want 1 tank, and you want 2 assassins. I mean, you know, a lot of people have their opinions of what's exactly right, but I don't actually even think it's necessarily been figured out. But you can definitely do a lot of crazy things. I mean, we did the 4 supports Illidan in a draft game. You know, they were ignoring the supports and they were picking up all the DPS, so we just grabbed all the healers and grabbed Illidan, and we actually were surprisingly able to keep him alive long enough to, you know,
Didn't die once. First game and Illidan hasn't died.
You kept Illidan alive long enough that he did damage.
Yeah,
He never
exactly.
died.
So did this
The
take
first
like
game
30
Illidan
minutes
didn't
for
die.
him to get to the damage part of
The thing is, he usually dies so quickly, his damage gets underestimated. If he's actually alive for like 2 or 3 Qs, he does some things.
Yeah, he has some
Just some
hope.
neat stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody quickly make the Heroes of the Storm newspaper. Idra says Illidan.
I love him. His kit is so fun. Like, as soon as he gets buffed 2 or 3 more times, he's going to be really, really good.
Once they changed the name of his moves a couple more times, like, man, I'm going to be
That was the biggest
Jumping
fucking
on
cock tease. I saw that, and I was so happy. It was like, wow, another paragraph of changes? They just remade him. It's like, nope.
Yeah, it's
Straight
true.
trolled.
No, but there's a lot of comps, you know. I actually play a lot of the specialist type roles and stuff, and you can do a lot of those with almost any type of comp. The difference is like a lot of specialist heroes actually need to be picked actually more towards the end, because they almost all have like some type of hard counter.
Yep.
Right, and so so that's the problem with like leading off, like going a 5 specialist quote unquote type of team, is that it'd be really easy to counter it.
Yeah, you just get Mule and
Yeah, exactly. And Murky's
Double Mule.
no more.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think one of the more interesting, it's not like there's no massive composition or specialized composition that we do, but like picking Gazlo to counter the very face rushy dive comps, I think that's one of the cooler usage, like cooler and more legitimately effective. Like, it actually seems like if there were a tournament and we went into it and someone picked Barbarian, Kerrigan, a couple others against us, it feels like something we'd be comfortable doing. So that's pretty cool. But the bigger thing, I think, is that there isn't really a set hero meta. I think it goes much more by the picks and bans, because there's so few heroes in each class who are actually good enough to like really respect and play well. If someone takes both of the good supports who are left on the board, it's better to focus more on damage and tankiness than to try and take Lily and make her work anyway, just because, oh, I have to have a support. So,
Okay.
yeah. So the picks and bans determine it much more than any kind of pre-established idea of what roles you need to fill, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
That's also the cool thing about bans too. You know, is that it opens up a whole new level to building your team around something. You know, like you ban one character that might hard counter somebody. Let's just say, you know, I want to try to get a Witch Doctor in there. Well, you know, if you ban Diablo, then that makes Witch Doctor all the more better, right? Because that's one hard CC that is removed from the enemy team comp or something. So, you can continue.
Jared was asking about how the map, like the fact that you have no idea what map you're going to play on, like how does that play into general strategy
it's
or
awful.
like
Terrible.
Are there any like weird comps that you guys would pick if you knew what map you were going to be on or anything to that effect?
I think Siege Tank would be picked a whole lot more in our comps if we knew what map we were going on.
Which maps?
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Greg.
It's more the chance that you get Blackheart's Bay just makes tank. Just like you're like 25% of the time, this is not really going to work. So that's pretty bad.
Okay.
That was really just the thought. There wasn't much more to it. It's just the tank is awful on that map, and it's like to the point that you're
it's
not
so
really
bad
going
that
to,
you don't want to.
You're not really going to win a game if you have it on there. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think the tank is like really strong on the Dragonshine map. Like he can hold mid lane like so well. He can almost shoot it from his mid tower. You know. Like So that makes it pretty ridiculous as far as that's concerned. And so he definitely there's a lot of characters that shine, and I think like a lot of the specialists are one of those that get punished a lot for certain maps more than others. I mean, if you pick Murky, which Murky can be made with teams like his Octo nowadays, but if you pick Murky, but then you get the
Cursed Hollow.
No, not Cursed Hollow. The other one, the Mines map, right? Like it's a problem because he actually can't really be made useful in the beginning. There's no like split pushing he can do or something because it's like 2 lanes. There's like 4 people congested everywhere, you know, and so it just makes it a real problem when you pick certain comps.
That
depends how you build them, but yeah, I mean I definitely could see what you're saying.
I mean, so that's a really interesting point here. Is that we're right now we were just discussing how quick the meta is changing, and you guys are developing this meta around you could possibly get any of the 4 maps that could possibly exist. However, the meta would change even more drastically for 4 different maps at once, depending on if you knew what map you were going into. That is ridiculous. That is like just thinking about how many possible different metas for each map. But at the same time, it's also kind of interesting that you have to develop a team that's going to work on all maps.
You know, it's really interesting, and I'm actually curious. Like, it's going to change a lot when you know what map you're playing on. That's for sure. But this is making me think more on the esports element of things and how exactly is it going to work. I mean, there's 4 maps. You don't see a lot of tournaments. It's best of 4. It doesn't make sense. Like,
no,
unless it's like a round
best of 4 literally doesn't make sense mathematically.
Right, no, unless you're like in a round robin and you have to play on all 4 maps, and then you tally up the score or something. That's the only tournament format that would actually work with 4 maps. So like, I guess what I'm getting at is if you guys had to pick one map to drop to make it a 3-map rotation, which map would you drop?
Pirate. I hate that map.
Which one?
Or Blackheart's Bay.
Blackheart's Bay. Okay.
See, and I love Blackheart's Bay. I would totally drop the Mines map. Hate that map.
I used to hate Mines. I think it got way, way better with all of the changes they've made to it.
They did make it a lot better, but...
I think the change to the center, just making it a little bit more open and contestable and workable.
The upper level is a lot better as a whole, but...
Yeah.
Okay. LZ, what is it that you like so much about Blackheart's Bay?
I mean, I like it in general. Just it has a lot of different types of plays that go around, you know. I mean, there's usually always roamers on Blackhearts, and there's always people that you have, like, you try to get... Usually you want your coins on, like, you know, a couple of people instead of, like, everyone. A lot of times you'll want your tank or, you know, a Tastadar that has the invincible button ready at any time. Like, that's always good to have. So I definitely think that's, like, a really cool map. And the fact that it's a map that it forces engagements a lot of times, you know? Like, you have to fight at turn-in so much that I think it would be a pretty cool map to cast. And plus seeing, you know, like Murky pick up 50 coins and end up dying with them looking like a slot machine. I think that'd be really cool. You know? Like, so, or Murky get all the coins and then try for the whole game not to die. You know, like, that would be a challenge in itself.
Okay, so on the other side of the coin, Greg, what is it that you hate so much about that map, or is it
coin? I get it, doubloon.
Taking a page out of Kev's book. All right, Greg, what is it?
Well, there's a few things. I actually really like playing Hammer, and so that in itself is just kind of frustrating. But I think the biggest thing is it's one of the maps where you can win without actually attacking your opponents. Is actually like that can kind of happen on other maps. If you get a gigantic golem and you already have a big advantage, then you kind of just win by default. But on Pirates, like if you get a big enough advantage, or if you win a fight with a bunch of coins, you can literally just sit there, camp turn in. If they're a couple levels down, they can't really take a head-on fight. It's over. You're not really doing anything about that. They're just sending cannonballs at you until your buildings are gone.
That's how we play it.
Incredibly frustrating. I hate playing against that so much. It's just like the most frustrating feeling. There's not too much else about it. I don't know. The laning setup makes things kind of weird early on. That's just kind of like difficult to work with. It's not inherently bad. It's a little bit frustrating trying to figure out where to be and who's pushing what, because there tends to be 3 people pushing one lane, and then that gets to meta gaming where like I think they're gonna move their 2 people down here now. Let's go camp in that bush and try and catch them. I think it's a little weird, but that's not inherently bad. I think it's mostly just the fact that the turn-ins can flat out win the game, and there's not a whole lot you can do to contest it in some situations.
Kev,
What? What did I do?
what map would you drop?
Oh, what map would I drop? Oh, I just thought this was okay. I would definitely drop
I
Dragon.
get to have an opinion?
I don't want to have an opinion.
Oh,
I'm just supposed to sit here and make terrible puns all day. That's it.
Dragonshire, huh?
Dragonshire. I really don't like Dragonshire. I don't like the ability. I mean, just it's not anything balanced or anything related. Dragonshire just bothers me because 90% of it is just being forced into lane and like. I mean, if you at least in public games and most of the pre-mades that I play against pubs where we just stomp pubs, because I don't really scrim, but it just feels like you have to sit in lane a lot. Then you have to get the 2 shrines. Then you have to give away the reason you picked that character so that you become a different thing for a set amount of time. I don't want to become a different thing. I want to be the character that I was, but if you don't, like, somebody's got to give up the fact that they have to be that character.
You don't play Abathur, do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't play
after
Abathur.
your ultimate's down, you want to be something else. Like
I
you're
don't
finding
wanna
a
be this
reason.
guy.
Abathur's whole entire reason is to be somebody else, which is really like a terrible motivational poster for high school children. But
Be what you're not.
anyway, I don't really like Dragonshire.
Well, I think I kind of just hate the mines in general. I just don't like the map, so that's my vote. But no real reason. I just don't have fun on the map. I think the mines are still too big. It takes so much time to get all the skulls. It takes away from the whole map. There's so many strategies where you can just get mercs, where mercs can end up being better. I just don't like the flow of the map. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening in terms of competitive standpoint, because there could be a ban process for maps. You could, okay, we ban this map, we ban that map, because we know they just announced today that they're going to be adding another map. Now that could mean that they're removing a map from the pool, but keeping it at 4 doesn't make a lot of sense. Keeping it at 5 makes more sense, because that way each team bans 1 map, and then you're down to a 3-map pool, and it could be a process where, okay, game 1 we're playing on Haunted Mines, game 2 we're playing on Dragonshire, and that's predetermined. Or there could be a counterpicks process as well, so we'll see where it ends up. But
Or it can be completely RNG YOLO style. Like, we don't even know what map you're going to get. Let's see what we roll.
Let's hope that's not the case. But
oh yeah, it would be terrible.
Let's really hope that's not the case. I think that would be a huge detriment to the game. But I don't think they'll be removing a map when they add this next. I think we'll have a 5-map pool with the new map coming out. Now, just because they're showing it off Tuesday doesn't mean we're getting it next week.
I would almost guarantee we're not getting it. But
yeah, I'd love to get it next week, because it seems like they show stuff on Tuesdays and then we get it on Thursdays, which is weird. That happened twice now, but who knows? Here's hoping.
Let's go into a couple of the questions from the Reddit thread.
Cool. I like it.
We have a good amount of those, and yeah. So let's get into. I have a couple that I've selected. I'm gonna ask them in a certain order because one of them is really my favorite, just because it's gonna hurt a lot of feelings. But the first question is from Serpicio. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the in-game talent tree that lets you see the opponent talent choices? Is this good for competitive play?
I think you shouldn't be able to see it until you actually see the hero. Like if they get level 10 in Fog of War, they select their thing, you can just see it. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm like 99% sure you can. And I don't know if that's really right. I kind of don't feel like it should be. But overall, I think it's okay because I mean, talents are equivalents of items. You can see items in every game. That's how you make decisions. This player has this strength now. Do I need to counter build or like build against that? What kind of play do I need to do to deal with that? That kind of thing. That's just part of. That's information that allows you to be a better player, and it goes both ways. So I think that's fine. I think that should actually be the first screen that you pull up. You shouldn't see stats. You should see the talents. That's actually the important part when you press tab.
Yeah, I agree with that exactly. There's some things I feel like you shouldn't be able to see, and some that you should. I feel like the talents is fine. I feel like seeing how many coins each person has is kind of a step in the wrong direction. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But
No,
I feel like
agree
that's
with that one.
Yeah,
I feel like
fine.
that's kind of messed up, because it's like when your opponents could turn in or when they don't have enough.
Right.
I like it almost tells you where they're
I like
going.
the idea of being able to see your allies' coins because that just makes it easier to coordinate. Be like, all right, our ETC has 6, I have 5, we can turn in. Just makes it easier for solo queue, but I don't like being able to see the enemy's coins. I think it's too much info.
Yeah, that's something that you should be forced to gather through intel, through scouting out stuff. So
Yeah.
Okay. Kev?
Alrighty. Question number 2 comes from Trilandian. As I go into my radio announcer voice, how many pro gamers do you think will move over to Heroes of the Storm from other games in the near future, especially once it becomes open?
Now, we got you guys coming from Starcraft 2. We got guys like White Raw that play, Scarlet plays, Cathan Luck I see on a lot. He's an old Starcraft 2 guy. Now, that's all Starcraft 2 people. Do you guys know if any other people coming from other games at all?
I know a lot of the players who are like in the competitive scene were just like platinum, diamond, maybe a few challenger, like high level but not pro league players. Like the people who are on those teams that we scrim against, that kind of stuff. I know a decent amount of them have come from that. I'd be surprised if any actual professional MOBA players switched over early on. But I could certainly see a lot of the tier right below them, the ones who are trying to make it and haven't yet. I could see them thinking that this is the easier or the better or the newer opportunity or whatever, and trying to hop on board early.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. That's what I think players are going to do. There's already a lot of quote unquote challenger and Diamond 1 and high ranked Dota players and stuff already in it. But I don't see a lot of people switching over, especially with how much popularity and prize pool a lot of the other MOBA games have, right? I mean, the Invitational has it's like 11 million or something right now, something ridiculous. So I don't see somebody like, well, there's a BlizzCon mug with my name on it. I don't see it happening. So in due time, maybe, but right now, I don't see it.
All right. It's either M. Raymond or Mr. Amond from the year 2028. I'm not positive. It's probably M. Raymond.
I like
How can I get into the competitive scene for Heroes?
I'm gonna put a quick stop on that question. Not saying to get rid of the question entirely, but don't plug anything in specific, just like in general, because I don't think that we want to have what happened before, which people flooded the channel.
Yeah, so
plug it without plugging the actual channel.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I don't know, there's not a whole lot to it. You just kind of, like, the game is new enough and there's few enough good people. And there is some semblance of an MMR system, even if they're tweaking it and whatever. Some people still seem to think it's a myth or something. If you play a lot and win a lot, you play against other people who play a lot and win a lot. And so if you kind of just do well and be friendly and a little communicative, like at least be willing to talk if you get talked to, it's surprising how many people just either don't realize that there is communication or just ignore it. But like, talk to other people who are good and play well yourself, and you'll find your way into the scene. It's a pretty small scene. There's a lot of teams that are looking for at least people to play against, if not just downright looking for a 5th member for their own team. And if you're good, they're gonna take you.
I mean, exactly what Greg said. Like, be sociable in your games. If someone plays well and you enjoy their play, say, hey, good game. After the game, add them as a friend. If they don't accept, I mean, fine. But if you can talk to them and make a friend after the game, it's one way or another you're going to get led into the competitive scene, and that's what it's all about. So, be sociable, be friendly, because that's where it starts. Making friends and then finding a way to. Before you know it, you'll have yourself a team, and once you have a team, you'll find other teams to play against. It's just how it works.
If nothing else, your game will be more enjoyable. I don't know how anyone solo queues. Like, if I solo queue, it's purely to like look at what a hero does and maybe try out talents or something. It's just like such a horrendous fuck of a time. So, like, just make friends and have people to play with, and then go from there.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Kev, got any more?
All right, guys. All right, now we have a couple more, but my favorite one, and it's the top voted one, but it's gonna definitely hurt a lot of people's feelings. Steve's. This question is for LZ and Idra. Who are some of the best teams or players that you scrim against in Alpha?
As painful as it is, his is actually reasonably good.
Oh man!
I just wanted to like quickly burn him before anybody else.
Yeah, it hurt the wrong way. You misjudged that. I don't know who are the other good teams. I actually can't. I have trouble keeping the teams like in mind. I can think of players.
ZP's team is one of the best too. He definitely has one of the better teams. You know, he has. That's actually, you mentioned Chthon Luck earlier, and that's whose team he actually plays for, and he's one of the better like ADC type of players. But yeah, he definitely has a good team. CS Steve's team's really good. Nick always runs around with almost a different group every week, it feels like, but he always has a really good team to practice against. And then there's the Arthalon Dreadnought people, and they actually have a pretty solid team also. So I would say those are probably the top teams if I had to think about it. There's actually 2 European teams also. There's Team Empire that plays like really early in the morning, so they don't actually get to scrim a lot of the teams.
Is that because like the Starcraft Empire team?
They actually sponsored a team. Yeah, I saw it on their main site. I didn't believe it either at first, but we've played them. We've played them quite a few times. We'll wake up early to do scrims versus them sometimes, and they're pretty good. They play a lot together, so that I'm sure they'll improve. You know, right now they're not on the top by any means, even though they have like the actual team name with them. But they put in the time, so I'm sure they'll improve. And then there's another European team called that has players like Ace of Spades. I actually don't even know what their team name actually is, but and they're also pretty good. So I think out of all, those are the only teams I can think of that are just like mind-blowingly, the top.
So Ace of Spades team, I think, was actually the first ones that we saw using that 2-year mark composition, like 2 or 3 days before anyone else. That's the standout in my mind about them.
Yeah, the Europeans definitely jumped on the eraser build, we call it. Like they just erased, Brightwing from the game, and then it doesn't matter if you have him.
So I just want to give a huge shout out to Team Empire because they're the first legitimate esports organization to come in and pick up a team, and that's cool. That's really good to see.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I was absolutely shocked that happened. Like, I figured it'd be a bunch of those little opportunistic bottom-feeding esports teams just trying to pick someone up early and get lucky. But Empire is like maybe the second or third best Dota team in the West. They're like gigantic.
They're huge. So, I mean, that's awesome. Shout outs to them. Seriously.
They're kind of also shooting themselves in the foot. Like, until they know like the quality of the players that they have under their team, it's just like now we have all these players that we just found out.
I mean,
their contracts with them could be like the most
a day. It's absurdly low risk.
Every morning you have to wake up and sign a contract, and one morning they're just not going to.
You can play today.
Yeah.
Terrible. No, I'm sorry, Empire. I'm sure you guys are doing great.
It looks like they announced their team on May 28th, so it's actually been together for quite some time. So that's awesome. I want to find their Twitter so I can shout them out, but I don't know if they have one. I'm sure they do.
So then, I guess the question that I'd follow up that with is, who would be your favorite? Like, we know who's good, but who's your favorite to play against? Like, do you think that there's one team that's awesome because they're always trying new things, or there's this other team who's your favorite because they always put up a really good fight? Like, who is your penultimate favorite just to go against? It doesn't mean they're really good. Just, do you want to answer that question, or is your favorite like pub team? The 5 people that just got queued together, and that's your favorite because you can do anything and it works.
I think we've actually learned the most from the European team that has Ace of Spades in it. They're a solid 5 stack, and they do like really weird stuff. They don't run the standard comps, and so I think we learn a lot when we play them. Sometimes we see a lot of stuff that we never thought we'd see. They use like Tank Zagara lineups and stuff like that. And so they definitely have a unique style of play. So they're one of the more favorites that I have, at least, of playing.
It's really cool having a team that actually has a bit of diversity and a bit of ingenuity, because there's a lot of teams that they're certainly very good, but they have a style. They're a little bit pigeonholed, and I don't know. It's not even that you can deal with it, but sometimes you can't. Like, not like a call out or anything, but ZP's team, if you take away Kerrigan from them, they get exponentially worse just because they use that hero so very well. But if you take it away from them, then they're still good, but it's not nearly as good. And they don't really experiment too much. It's like they try and get their Kerrigan, they try and get a tanky bruiser who can follow up on that, and then they put generic good heroes behind it. And a lot of the competitive teams are kind of like that. So it is nice to play against people who kind of mess around and try different things. I mean, it's an alpha. Like, there's no reason to be super serious try-hard faces all the time.
Okay.
So then we have one question from the Zola himself. Actually, we have a couple of them, but we actually kind of already answered a lot of them in the discussions that we had before. And this is basically my saving my own ass because he's yelling at me that I didn't ask any of these questions. Anyway, the Zola himself, Zoya, asked a couple of questions, but the one that I think really stands out is, right now the norm for scrims is each team bans one, and the standard pick rotation from other MOBAs. If ranked play were to be released tomorrow, what would you want that draft format to be? How would you want that draft format to be a feature? How many heroes do you feel would need to be in the game before we consider upping the amount of heroes banned per team?
I think we're already really, really short on competitive heroes. Like, short to the point that having the 1-2-2-2-1, whatever it is, system is a little bit iffy, because it gets to the point where, like, if a pair of heroes were a little bit stronger and one team gets that pair, like they happen to have second pick, then they just have a really significant advantage, because there aren't enough heroes that you have enough heroes at that level that you can kind of compensate for that with different strong picks. I almost feel like just back and forth picks after one ban each might be better. It gives you a little bit more room to work with. It's less likely that they're going to get a pair that's absolutely devastating just because it completely denies you a class or something like that, because that happens right now. Like, if a bunch of supports are panned out and they pick two of them, then you're left with Lily, who doesn't do anything. Or they take out Tychus Vala and they got both of the good damage. Now you're like, well, what are we going to do? Are we just going to try not to sustain them? We have to pick some kind of weird workaround instead of just picking other heroes that are good. So I think we need a significant more amount of heroes before you really beef up the pick ban process at all. I don't even know what number is reasonable, like 50 plus?
Damn.
I actually think like 35 heroes and you could ban 2 people. Like, I think that'd be fine, personally. Really? But yeah, I think you'd be able to get away with it. Like you said, you mentioned workarounds, and I actually think those are actually a really cool part of the game. I actually think that workarounds like make those like strategies pop. Like, oh wow, because they did this, now you have this option, right, to do these really cool things that throw people off. And I don't know if you can necessarily do that with the 1-1-1-1-1 system. I feel like it would be much easier to read those type of weird picks, or it wouldn't be as devastating, right, with that type of system. And so I kind of like the way that we actually, or most teams actually do it now, which is where you ban one person and you pick the normal like league system where it's like 1-2-2-2-2-1. But I do think as more heroes get added in, I think that would make it that much better of a system, just having an extra ban or something. But definitely don't want more than one ban really right now with the amount. We've tried the 2 bans each, and just to see what it would look like, and before you know it, there's no supports even in the game, and it's just like it's nothing but a lot. It's just like a crapshoot. So I definitely think bans are a needed thing for the game, because I think it brings out a lot of strategy. But I definitely don't think we're anywhere close to the point where we want more than one ban.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was part of the original question, but Steve said in the chat how Dota Draft is the best by a lot, and so I'm not sure if we were supposed to answer that, but I definitely agree with that. I've always thought that was one of the weird things about League and Dota. Like, League has the best, I think, solo queue pick and ban system. You get rid of 3 heroes who are broken, and then you all pick your heroes, and that's good. And then Dota is much better for competition, because the way they do some bans, you pick a couple, they do some more bans, you pick a couple, etc.
It's such a cool storytelling process too. Like, the whole pick ban process for Dota 2 is just like, there's so much thought, and there's so much you can just say, okay, this is probably how they're going to play the game. It's really good for the whole esports storytelling process. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Dota who are famous just for being great drafters. I don't think there is that in League. I was never as into League as I am in Dota, so maybe I'm unaware. But I don't feel like there is anyone who's known for being a good drafter in League. Whereas having a good drafter, having Go Black or PPD or something on your team, is a massive massive boon for your team, like regardless of how good they are as a player, just because they're so good at strategizing during the pick ban phase. And once Heroes has enough heroes to actually sustain that, which is quite a few, it's a long ongoing process. But I think that would be something to aim for. I think it's by far the best system for competition.
Yeah, I mean, right now we only have 27 heroes in the game. We've seen quite a few other ones, but it's going to take quite a while. I mean, I think on average you get a hero a month right now.
Yeah.
There's actually something that I always notice, especially during the TI period of the year, is that people start flipping out over Twitter about just picks on
It's cool.
on Dota.
Yeah,
and
it's like a big
League of
hype
Legends,
there.
like people will flip out. They'll be like, "Oh my God, Mad Life got Blitzcrank," but that's like it. But you typically know when a new TI match is starting because people are like, "Oh my God, the Faceless Void" or something like that just got picked, and it's just like your Twitter will blow up with it. And I have way more followers, or I follow more people who play League of Legends than I do Dota. But whenever the Dota stuff happens, it just like it explodes, and Jake or somebody said that it adds to the esports story, and I never really thought about it before until about now, and you're right.
It's such a huge storytelling element. Not even just that one guy getting that hero that they're known for, but just like the whole like mental process of how they're approaching the match. I mean, because it's a very intricate like pick ban process, and it usually takes several minutes. It's not like it's just like a 5-minute boom bang bang bang. I mean, it's a pretty lengthy process actually. It's a big part of the match. Now that's going to extend the series, of course, but it's still like I don't know. It's such a good storytelling element. It just shows so much more strategy and depth to the game. And again, that's something that Heroes isn't going to have right away. It needs probably 75 heroes before that's the Dota system would work. Dota has over 115 heroes. I don't even know. A lot.
It's over 100 for sure.
Yeah, it's a ton. It's a ton of champions in the game. So
another thing is the kind of heroes. Like I feel like Dota heroes are much more unique than League champions, and so you have heroes that are just generically exciting. You see a Meepo pick, it doesn't matter who picked it for what reason in what situation. It's just really exciting to have that cool, unique, weird hero in the game. People are excited to see just that, and there's a lot of different heroes like that. So I think that's another big element of it too. Obviously, that's kind of unrelated to drafting what we're talking about. That's kind of just going to come down to how well Blizzard designs their heroes. But that's part of the reason for the excitement it causes.
We're already seeing a lot of uniqueness in heroes. I mean, Abathur is really weird. Murky's really weird. Zagara's... I love Zagara personally.
Oh yeah, if we had that equivalent and then there was like a 5th pick Murky, it would be the same kind of thing. Be like, what the fuck? They picked Murky. How do you do that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to shoehorn this thread in here because I think that was going to be the last question that I think was fitting for this segment. But I'm going to shoehorn this BattleNet forum thread. So already put your expectations well below whatever ground you had before.
Can you link the thread?
I'm going to link the thread. Call outs to everybody who's in this thread because you deserve it. What happened in this thread was people were talking about this exact question. What is competitive matchmaking? Many people in this thread agreed simultaneously that we should get rid of bans and get rid of picks so that you can't allow mirroring. What are your guys' thoughts on banning and mirroring? Does it add strategy? Yes, it does. Or does it take away?
Wait, what do you mean add mirroring? Like have the same heroes on both sides?
Yes.
Yes.
How does removing pick ban prevent that? Like pick ban is what prevents that.
Well, no. I mean, like you gets rid of bans, and it also gets rid of.
Is it like blind pick?
It
or
allows
something?
blind pick. Not blind pick, but you can both see like what the other team is
Right.
picking.
So basically, you would both be allowed to pick right wing, and there would be no bans. Period. It's just like you pick whoever you want, and it doesn't matter if you have right wing on both teams.
That's the worst idea.
No
That's the worst idea I've ever heard of.
That's
Like,
a Blizzard
Well,
forum.
this is why I wanted to bring up this question: is what type of strategy does pick banning add to the game, and what type of strategy does or having unique characters on each team create? I mean, it's a standard
First off,
question.
It's really confusing to the spectator to have the same heroes, right?
Yep.
Like Brightwing just blinking around, 2 of them. They don't know who's who. Like you couldn't even tell, right? Like it would just be really confusing. First off, to even have that option as any type of spectator sport or competitive atmosphere. It also limits strategies and heroes that you'll actually see. People are just like, well, I'm just going to play the top 5 rated heroes, and that's all you're going to see. Every team's going to run the same crap. And with the other, like you're talking about no bans, right? There's no bans at all. Like what strategy does that like prohibit? Is that what the question was?
Yeah,
Yes.
basically.
Okay. Well, what bans do is allows players to use the creativity, right? Like it bursts creativity with heroes, and so while right now I can't think of very many that would just be like game breaking, like awesome. But a prime example is that a lot of people pick their tanks last a lot of the times, right? Like a lot of times Diablo is picked up as like a counter pick to ETC, which was the person we talked about, right? Because it's so easy to interrupt him, right? So because Diablo's in the game, you actually can't play the Witch Doctor and play him correctly, where you're supposed to use the ultimate that you can actually control and deal damage. You can't use ETC, so it limits a lot of the heroes that you could pick from because that person's like a really strong counter to them. And so with being able to, let's say, ban that character, that makes these other, let's say, weaker or lower tier heroes actually that much better without having to make Blizzard come in and like buff them or something, right? It like just from being able to remove certain people actually can make certain comps just that much better and that much more lively. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, pretty much everything that he said. Like, you would end up with a very generic, stale metagame because there are things that are just flat out generically strong, and generically strong is important when you can't control what you're going to be playing against. You can't play anything that has a specific weakness because you might end up playing against that weakness. So you just have to pick the safest, overall best heroes every time. And then, I mean, it makes it more about outplaying your opponent, I guess, because there's no way you're going to have like an outdraft or a better lineup, or at least you shouldn't, depending on how exactly, like if it's completely blind or back and forth or whatever. Like, you should have relatively equivalent lineups, so I guess you kind of just have to purely outplay them, and there's something kind of interesting about that, but the game would just be so much more stale. It removes the whole element of it. And that was a really good point Jake brought up about how it's having picks and bans is kind of a ninja buff to the more unique heroes, because if you're smart about the way you ban and pick, then you can last pick them, you can get rid of their counters, you can pick it into a lineup where it's good, and then you can have an interesting, unique, niche kind of hero that is good in specific situations, but it can be really unique because it doesn't have to be good overall. So you can have big weaknesses to it that counteract its big strengths, and I think that makes sense on its own. Like, if you can really punish those weaknesses, then it can have these really cool strengths. But if those weaknesses are always going to be punished in the hardest way possible, then you just can't pick it. And that's what happens in that banless kind of environment.
Thanks for that horrible question from the Blizzard forums that we hope
Yes.
never,
It's
ever,
so
ever
these
happens.
people or whoever is thinking about, because Blizzard is coming at this game with a different mindset, and a lot of people are thinking about what are things that other MOBAs do and why do they do them. And though it's a different mindset from every other MOBA, it's still important to realize what picks and bans do and how it actually adds a lot of strategy and a lot of
It adds so
breadth
much
and
more depth to the competitive.
the competitiveness. A lot of people associate that picks and bans specifically means I don't want to deal with your best character. Where more as in especially heroes is going to be I don't want to deal with this. Your team composition is going to be really strong. I know what you want to go for. I'm going to make you be good at many things as having to be good at one composition all the time.
I think part of that is the League versus Dota experience. Says League, you just get the 3 bans right away. That tends much more towards we're just going to take out the 6 strongest heroes. Maybe a respect ban here and there. Maybe we have something that we really don't want to play against, so we take that out. Whereas in Dota, it's much more, these are a lot of diverse heroes. It's a very integrated pick and ban system. And so the bans become a lot more counterplay there. And hopefully that's what happens with heroes. But I think what Kevin was trying to say there is that a lot of people have really stupid thoughts, and other people listen to these thoughts if they aren't corrected. So occasionally we do have to address questions like this and fix the community's stupid thoughts.
Stupid
It's
wasn't
like a
what I
public-
was going for.
it's like
I
a
was going for
public
the
service,
more PR way to say it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I was going for. Okay, yeah, no, that's all I have for questions. Do we want to go into Koopy's questions, or do we think this show's been going on long enough? Jake,
It's a 2-hour
Jake, you're
show.
shaking your head.
2-hour
Looks like
show
you want to
is-
go hit up that ice cream truck.
That's
It was a 2-hour show when I come on. I thought it was supposed to be like an hour and a half.
It never ends up that way anymore. It's always a 2-hour show now. So
It used to be only an hour. No, it used to be only 45 minutes. We wanted to get this show done. Then it was an hour. Now it's an hour and a half. And soon enough, we're gonna hit like 4-hour shows. I'm seeing this happen.
Well, that's why I'm trying to lay down the law and keep it under 2
Yeah.
hours every week. So no Goofy's questions this week. I'm sure something great, but we'll save it for next week. So that being said, we are going to push on to our final shout-outs, starting with our guests, LzGamer. Thanks for coming on. Why don't you give some shout-outs as to where people can find you?
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure. Hopefully, Blizzard doesn't read their forms, and they listen to this podcast. I see you out there, Trick Slayer. I hope you're still there. Yeah, I really do. My final thoughts. I just hope that the pick and ban phase is something they go with. And for the love of God, don't let mirrors happen. That would just be awful. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, guys, at LzGamer, and and I stream here on Twitch at twitch.tv/LzGamerTV. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Moving over to Idra, shout-outs.
Thanks for having me back again. It was a lot of fun. You guys can follow me on Twitter at IdraChip. I also stream over on mlg.tv/Idra. I tend to stream every Thursday through Sunday, roughly, if you're interested in more of a schedule. But just follow me on Twitter. That's the easiest way to see when I am streaming and if I'm doing anything else.
And they could follow your channel there.
Yes, you can also follow my channel on mlg.tv/Idra. There's a little button right below the screen. You just click on that and you'll get notified whenever I'm streaming.
Kev?
Follow me at Sham2 as always. SCHAMTOO. I can't believe how many people missed the C. I understand SH and it's a dumb name. I get it. Just there's a C in there. Just see the C. That's funny. Anyway, also youtube.com/sham2. I'll be doing another free week on Wednesday. I did one last week, and my entire team raged and quit. So, actually, people still like the video. I kind of taught how Arthas is supposed to be played, even though I couldn't actually play him the way that, you're supposed to play Arthas. But, people still like the video, so that's cool. And I meant to do another one this week, but it's been a busy week. I will be doing another one tomorrow. Diablo's free week. So, guess
that's an easy
who
one.
I'm running the free week as. I'm going to be going over Diablo's role in a team or a team fight. So check that out. That's going to be on tomorrow, probably by the end of the day. And that's it for me.
Kubi.
Follow me at Omega Black Mage, and I swear, guys, I'm going to be starting streaming soon. This week, Jake, make me do it. All right, force me to do it.
Oh yeah.
I want these two guys here. I want to get you guys into competitive drafting.
Yeah, we're going to start drafting. I think we'll
we're
start
gonna get to
drafting
it this
together.
week. So if you guys want to check that out on my stream, I'll let you guys know through Twitter what it is. But I think that's what we're going to be highlighting on, so you guys can see how a team gets into it, like we talked about earlier. So.
Cool. Well, you can follow the show at Town Hall Show. We're actually talking about upgrading the graphics and the rebranding and stuff in the future. So the name might have a slight change. It'll still be Town Hall. You can follow me at SolidJakeGG on Twitter, and my YouTube is also SolidJakeGG, and the VOD will be on my YouTube. So just youtube.com/SolidJakeGG. All the VODs are there. We have a new blog. It's townhallshow.wordpress.com, and at our WordPress, you can basically find the RSS feed. Our MP3 is uploaded there every week, so if you guys want to listen to it on iTunes or whatever, that's all there. It's on iTunes, and so there's a lot of ways to watch the show now. And last but not least, I also stream on mlg.tv/SolidJake. There's no GG there. I stream pretty much exclusively Heroes, but when Nax comes out, I'm actually going to be playing Nax Remus for sure. Just the wings, I'm not going to put too much time into it, but I think that does it for Town Hall episode 22. Rest in peace, Zoya. He'll be back. I think next week's his birthday, but I think...
So wish him a happy birthday.
Yeah, wish him a happy birthday, but...
We'll see.
I don't know if a Sunday show is going to happen. We're talking about a Sunday show. Seems unlikely right now just because we got big Tuesday news next week, and we don't want to miss out on that. So Zoya's training for a new job now, but he'll be back soon. But until next time, this is Town Hall, episode 22. Take care.